encourage you to use the technology that's at your fingertips. So, thank you again for coming. I appreciate the time that you spend. Again, because we're having effects from Mother Nature, to say a prayer for those brothers and sisters we have in on the coast that are having to deal with issues that, uh, well, I've never had to deal with. I've lived in Utah or Wyoming all my life, almost all my life, and I've never had to deal with a storm like that. So my heart goes out to these people. Who are we? Why are we here tonight? What in the world would take you away from the programs that you have going on in your yard, in your home, in your family, on TV, on the internet? Why would you spend the time here? And it's because we are focused on overcoming the symptoms of metabolic syndrome. That's one of our primary goals. The people that we love, we care about, our neighbor, and ourselves. The second part is because we want to try and cure the ails or the ailments, the weaknesses of our financial situation. And so that's why we're here. And we can do both at the same time. And I applaud your efforts. I'm going to give you some statistics because we have commission payment coming up here in a matter of a couple of days, or a few days, I should say. And I want to brag about you in that category. But we're here to help overcome diabetes, both the symptoms or the severity of type 1, but actually the whole condition of type 2 diabetes, overcome high blood pressure and cholesterol, the fatty liver disease, obesity, inflammation issues, and all those calamities that are caused by that. That's why we're here. What was it that got us into that trouble? Food. Food was. Now, we need food to survive. So, is the answer stop eating food? Absolutely not. It's really the ratio. We call it macro balancing. Macro stands for macronutrient. A macronutrient is a protein, a fat, a carbohydrate. And the secret is that in that is not some mystical berry or juice from a faraway land, but really the proper ratio of those macronutrients. How many carbs and how many proteins and how many fats in a given meal, in a given day, in a given week and month and year. Those are the things that sets us up for physiological failure or success. So food got us into that trouble, and remarkably, and thank goodness, food will get us right back out of it. And that's what our whole program is based on. All of our food is whole based and whole food based, all natural, nothing synthetic or artificial, and it makes a difference. But another important part is the balance of how many grams of protein, how many grams of fat, and the quality of the protein and the quality of the fat. What kind of fats are we giving you? And the amount of carbohydrates and the type of carbohydrates. There's lots of different types, and you got to get the right type. So rather than have you go to school and become a specialist or a food scientist like me, that specializes in the formulation of these kind of ailments, how about you just eat when you're hungry? You just eat the 3B formulation, and you'll be fine. That will cure many of the problems that you have. It's guaranteed to cure hunger until you're hungry again, 5.5 or 4.5 to 5 hours later. That's why we're here. So let me talk about a little bragging rights. The formula that we have is based on a 4-phase formula. You start out with phase 1. Always start out with phase 1. If you're the pinnacle of health, if you're an athlete that is running 4, 5, 6 miles a day, lifting weights, eating healthy, wouldn't it make sense to start on one of the other phases, like 3 or 4, because you're already kind of mostly there, if not in your mind completely there, the epitome of health, shouldn't we start with phase 3 or 4? No, we should not, because of one simple statistic, and that is up to 32% of individuals in America that are visually thin. So you look at them and you see that they're a thin person. They're lean and they're in shape. You'll check them on the machine, and it says that they have an appropriate and healthy body fat percentage. Well, 31% of those people have fatty liver disease. That's not a good thing. In fact, studies show that fatty liver disease, or an overfat liver, they call it non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, because you didn't get it through alcoholism or drinking too much alcohol. You got it through eating too many carbohydrates in your ratio, your macro balancing. And their liver got fat. That's the first step of metabolic syndrome. The first step is not being overweight or having high blood pressure or cholesterol or having elevated glucose levels. All those things are part of metabolic syndrome. But what's the very first one that people get? And that's a fatty liver, because that is a cascading event to all the others. 31% of people that look thin. Now, we're not talking about overweight people. Now, the study, just for those of you that love statistics, like I do, 75% of people that are overweight have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. A much higher ratio, but only a number half of that are those people that are thin. Now, is that a story that should be told? Absolutely. It's deceiving those that think that they're healthy, because they're only measuring what visually looks like thin. But health is a lot more than just visually looking thin. So much more. And so I want you to recommend to those that have these issues, that ask, that you talk to, that they should always start with phase 1. Always start with phase 1. You don't have to stay on phase 1, but a person should always start with it. And I'm going to talk about some of the reasons tonight. And phase 1, you always start with, when you're starting with phase 1, you start with P22. And you stay on P22 for a minimum of 2 weeks. And then you move to P6. Now, the P stands for the amount of protein. Now, some of you have asked, well, if I move from P6 or P3 and it makes me weaker, I should go back because I'm not getting enough protein. Well, protein is generally not associated with energy. Protein is generally associated to your body's strength, the power, which are not the same thing, is energy. Energy you want to equate to the omega fat oil. In other words, if you're feeling low on your energy, take more oil. Don't take more protein. If you're feeling less strength, then that's where you supplement with a little more protein. Let me give you an example. All right. So you are going about your day and you find yourself at, well, let's say 11 o'clock in the daytime, and you're looking at your clock going, oh my goodness, I feel like it's 10 o'clock at night. I need to go back to bed. I am weak. I am tired. I need more rest. That is a omega fat issue. That is energy that you're lacking. You're not getting enough metabolic basal caloric at the cellular level. So that is how you measure it as far as energy. Now, if you are walking up the stairs, running up the stairs, and at the top of the stairs you bend down and you are breathing extremely hard and heavy, that's cardiovascular. That means you need to exercise more at elevating your glucose levels. Elevating your heart rate. But at the same time, you feel that your legs are just extremely fatigued and tired, and you don't think you could take another step. That is energy. Or another example, you are going on a trip and you're lifting your baggage off the ground and putting it in the back of the car, and that baggage is heavy, and you just don't have the power to lift that up like you did just a few days ago. The same amount of weight. That is power. That is strength. That's where you need more protein into your muscles. So don't confuse the two. As an average, as most of the time, people suffer from more energy rather than power and strength. In other words, most of the time you need more oil, not more protein. Now, what's the risk of having too much protein? What's the big deal? Why should I worry about the difference? Because if you have more protein than you need, you're putting more stress on your kidneys and your liver than you should. And you see, when you break down a protein, it has to go and break down all the amino acids. And in that process, your body will produce nitrogen and ammonia. And those are toxins, not good for the body. Now, your body's made to handle that stuff. There's no such thing as getting a protein without producing nitrogen or nitrogen or ammonia. It just comes with it. Is part of the nature of the beast. But if you have more protein than your cells need, more amino acids, then you're putting more stress on your kidneys and liver than they should. And that's where we start to having toxins that have built up higher than they should be, and can be a problem. Another negative side effect is that if you're trying to lose fat, trying to lose unwanted fat in your body, if you're getting more protein, then that's going to show up in your bloodstream as a glucose after it's broken down, and nobody wants the protein is for rebuilding cellular. You're going to get an insulin spike from your pancreas seeing that in your bloodstream, and it could kick you out of ketosis. In other words, it could kick you out of fat burning if you're having too much protein. And so that's another reason not to have it. And also, the third one is it's a waste. Why waste something? Don't take more than you need. And so go to the oil first. The positive is if you get more oil than your body needs, there's no negative side effects. There's no toxins that come through it. If you take the right kind of fats, in the case of omega fats, your body won't store it as body fat. It will eliminate it through your bowel movement and not produce any toxins along with it. So it won't store it as body fat. But there's no reason to take extra oil. So let me give you an example of how do you know when you're getting more oil than you need? Well, the reality is that our energy burn rate on an hourly and daily basis is not always the same because your activities are not the same. You're not doing the same stuff every day and every hour. And so therefore, your burn rate is not the same. You know, some of these new cars that you have, and you might have one that's like it, like mine. I'm fixated on my new truck because it has a little screen on there, and it tells me what my average miles per gallon are and how many miles per gallon I'm getting in that instant, right? And so I want to always maximize my miles per gallon. So whenever you borrow my truck and you come back and you rotted it means, you stepped on the gas a lot and feel the power of that engine. It drops my gas mileage and I complain to you about it. So I'm watching that. And throughout any given day, you might be carrying more stuff in the back of your truck, making more energy demand on your engine, and your miles per gallon are going to drop, right? Or you might be just driving faster, or you might be going up and down hills. You might be running to a sale and got to get there before the sale's over. And so you're just moving at a faster pace. Just like in your car, if you move faster with more activity and more aggressive, you're going to get less mileage out of the food or the energy that you have in your tank. Your body's exactly the same way. So let's say, for example, that at 10 o'clock in the morning, which is before your meal, you had one at 7, and you should be having one about noon. And at 10 o'clock, you're hungry and you're tired, and you're wondering what is changed. Well, you remembered that you did something a little bit more aggressive, maybe the night before or that morning or both. Well, what you can do to solve that problem is add 1 pump of oil to your 2 pumps that you're getting is recommended in phase 1. Okay, so you add 1 more pump, and you find out that helped, but it wasn't quite enough. So at your lunch meal, or I'm sorry, at your evening meal, your 3rd shake of the day, you take 1 more. So now you're taking a total of 4 pumps. And you do that for breakfast the next day. You're taking 4 pumps for breakfast the next day, and you're taking another 4 pumps. And you find out that your energy has returned. Well, that's great. Once you've had your energy return back to where you need it to be for 2 days, what I want you to do is go back to 3 pumps per shake. Because it could have been that it was a temporary energy demand and the oil was there to solve that problem. But what if you actually don't need that on an ongoing basis? Then why take the extra oil? Doesn't make any sense, right? So back off to find out what your body needs. Now, it might come out that your body says, I felt the same level of energy with 3 pumps as I did with 4. So 2 days later, go back to 2 pumps. If you feel a drop in energy, then go back to the previous 3 where you had a satisfactory level. You see how that means? Basically, it's kind of you increase your oil to take care of the immediate need of having lower energy, and then you back off again to find out, to test your body as to whether it needs it on an ongoing basis. Now, this is something that often happens, is this scenario. You'll find out that once you start the protocol, you can do things that you once did before and you haven't been able to do for a while. You just feel more energized, right? You feel more motivated. And so you start doing those things. You're getting more done, therefore you need more energy. And so you move from 2 pumps to the 3 pumps, and you're doing that simply because you feel better and you feel more active. You want to get out. Well, do that. You also thought, you know what? I thought about working out a couple of years ago, and I feel like I can do that again now. That they've proven psychologically that as your body's ability to be or being more healthy, but also being more energized and being more efficient in converting the macronutrients to energy, you have a more positive outlook and an actual desire to want to be more active in things like exercising. And so you find yourself burning more energy than you did prior to the diet simply because your body feels like it wants to get out and move around. And so that is a very, very common thing. And embrace it. You want that to happen. And that's a good thing. So remember that if you're feeling weaker, the first thing you should increase is the oil, not the protein. Then after that is satisfied, and then if you feel a lack of strength, then you can increase the protein to meet your need. Hopefully that's helpful for everybody. I made a list of I have a cheat sheet here. Thank you, Malo and Callie, for helping me put this sheet together. And when I say helping me, that means I asked to put it together, and I just read it off a page. So thumbs up to everybody. Went over those 2. This is a great one. What will increasing your oil help us with diabetes? Well, as a coincidence, I happen to be reading some clinical studies. I read all the time. My wife makes fun of me sometimes. Well, no, she makes fun of me all the time. But one thing that she makes fun of me often is if we have to go somewhere in a hurry, she does not want me to go to the restroom before we go because it is a long affair. And if we are in a hurry, she demands that she takes my phone away from me while I go to the restroom because I use that time wisely and I always I read when I'm in there and I'm reading clinical studies or I'm reading a new report. And how did I get on that subject? Um, Reading. I read a new report. This report is from the U.S. National Library of Medicine, National Institute of Health. I know, the same place you read from. You may have missed this one. This one is the effects of omega-3 fatty acid supplementation on diabetic neuropathy progression in patients with diabetes and hypertriglyceridemia. Wow, what a topic. What a title for a paper. Now, what that meant was what benefit did taking omega 3 as a supplement, meaning added to their diet, for diabetic neuropathy and diabetics that have elevated triglyceride levels? Okay. For those of you that don't know what neuropathy is very, very common in diabetics, both type 1 and type 2. And also for those of you that may have this symptom, be wary of this because it's a calling card for type 2 diabetes if you're not already a diagnosed type 1. And that is that when you have been sitting still for a while, especially if you've been sleeping, and you put your feet down off the edge of the bed and you stand up and you notice that the bottoms of your feet are kind of tender and sore and you kind of hobble along until the circulation gets down there on your feet and the pain goes away or it lessens. That is a sign of neuropathy. Neuropathy, simply put, or in the simplest terms, is circulation is not going to the extremities of your body, mostly your feet. That's not good. If you don't have circulation going to the cells, guess what happens? Cells die. And if that continues to happen, then you start losing toes and feet. They cut them off because there's no life giving blood and oxygen going to that tissue. Not a good thing. So they wanted to find out is if you took omega-3, would that help? Now, I'm not going to read this whole paper because it would just bore you to death, but it was fascinating. So let me scroll down here to some kind of interesting stuff. All right, here's one. It showed that out of 344 patients, a pretty good size study, that supplementation of omega-3 at just slightly below 4 grams. I want you to remember 4 grams, okay? And I'll tell you why here in a second. 3/4 of those patients had hypertension, that is high blood pressure. And their blood pressure reduced 72% of the level of their blood pressure dropped. Wow. Another finding in this study was that 61% of the people were taking statins in this study, and 46% lowering of their triglyceride levels, so almost in half by taking omega oil, and their total cholesterol dropped by 19%, and their uric acid levels dropped significantly. And then let's go to the final conclusion. It says that our findings have demonstrated that omega-3 supplementation in diabetic patients, a lot of medical talk, is a great success. Obviously, I'm translating here. It basically eliminates a 91% neuropathy. 91% of those 344 people no longer had the symptoms of neuropathy. That is amazing from omega-3. Now, do we have omega-3? If you take this oil right here that you get every month, if you're not getting the oil along with your CMR, your complete meal replacement powder, then you're not getting a program. They got to go together. They're absolutely essential. Other oils, I'm not just trying to sell you my oil, they're not the same. Ours is 2.5 times more omega-3 than omega-6. There is omega-6 in here, and there's also omega-9, but there's only 1 part omega-9 for every 2.5 parts omega-3, and there's only 1 part omega-6 for every 2.5 times omega-3. You get too much omega-6 as it is, and no one has a formula that's this high. Now, if it's that important, why don't we just take omega-3 and just skip all the other omega-6 and omega-9? Because you need omega-6 and omega-9. You just need it in the right ratio. What was that key word I said at the beginning? Macro balancing. That's the key. And we do all the science for you. So that's one reason why taking the oil is essential. If you take it and you are diabetic, or you are worried about diabetes, and you should be because you do not want to have it, the omega oil will be a great defense against it. So, yes, you should be taking the omega oil to fight off diabetes. And it does so many other things, too. That's just one. I thought you might be interested in this. I have here, explain to me why some individuals experience fabulous results with the 3Believe program and some don't receive fabulous results. Well, I've been doing this for 10 years, and this might seem a little harsh at first, but let me explain why I say it. Why do I get fabulous results from some and not fabulous results from others? It's because they're not compliant to the protocol. Let me put it another way. Why does every young boy that enters basketball not become a Michael Jordan or a professional athlete for that matter? Well, one, because that boy that entered basketball was 3.5 feet tall, and by the time he was a senior in college, he was 4.5 feet tall. Partly it's just because of genetics. He's just not going to be a pro player and be 4.5 feet tall, right? Now, I'm being absurd in my example, but there are some issues with physiologically. But when we're talking about the metabolic function of people, there's really not a lot of difference between you and me. There isn't. So when you hear people talking about, well, there's no such thing as one diet fits all, that's just not supported by medical science. That's not true unless you have a specific genetic disorder or something that's very unique. There are exceptions, but those exceptions are small percentages. Okay? And the metabolic function, when I'm talking about metabolic, I'm talking about at the cellular level between you and me. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman at that level, all right? We're all about the same. And so one diet, when we're talking about overcoming metabolic syndrome and the symptoms of it, it's the same for every person. What makes the difference is the compliance. So when that young boy enters that basketball, is he being compliant to what the coach tells him to do? Is he making 200 shots at the foul line? Is he right-handed and being taught to do a layup with his left hand too? Is he practicing, and I shouldn't be just, sexist with our boys, our girls too, are they practicing to the level that will earn them the right to be proficient? So if you follow the protocol precisely, you'll get the results that's fabulous. Don't stop. Now, some of you have also noticed, well, I got great results in the beginning, but I didn't get great results in my second and third and fourth month. Well, again, look first always back at your compliance. Did you kind of stop being as strict with the protocol? And people will say, well, do I have to stay on phase 1 forever? Well, you can, and you'd be in excellent health. I did it for 18 months, and my health increased, and I was healthy before. I did my blood test before that test and blood test after, and that blood test was better. And all I ate was the powder and the oil and water. That's all I had, just to prove that point. But I'm not asking you to do that, and nor do you have to do that to have ultimate health. What I'm saying is that follow the protocol on phase 1 until you achieve 90% of your desired goal. In other words, if your ideal weight should be 165 pounds, then you need to be within, let's do some quick math here. You need to be at about 180 pounds before you move to phase 2. If your blood pressure is 210 over 90, and you don't have any other symptoms of metabolic syndrome, then you need to stay in phase 1 until your blood pressure is consistently at 90% of 120 over 80 before you move to phase 2. It's just what the science has shown. That's what my experience has shown. So I answered 2 questions I hope you picked up on. One is, mostly people don't succeed, some people succeed and some people don't get wonderful results because they don't follow the protocol. I've gotten emails from people that say, well, how come this isn't working as well for me? I'm doing this and this and this and this. And I'll say, well, you just gave me a recipe of some of the things that you're not doing or that I've asked you to, and you've added things that I've not suggested. How come? Well, because I've been on so many diets, I know my body so well. I plead with you. I know you know your body better than I do. I don't know your body at all. But I know the human body, and I know what the studies say. And I'm asking you to have faith in the fact that your body at your cellular level is the same as everybody else's. Follow the advice of thousands of men and women that have dedicated their lives to being experts, scientists, and doctors in this field of overcoming metabolic syndrome. Their advice should not be taken lightly. They don't tell you to take some of their advice, sprinkle it with somebody else's, and then also with your own. It's not that you're not a smart and capable individual. It's just that it's not your expertise. Take the advice from those that have dedicated their lives to it, and you will thrive and have fantastic and fabulous results. The other part that I hope you picked up on was the fact that stay with the program. Stay on phase 1. How long should I stay on phase 1? Let's go back to what I originally said. What if I have an athlete that is wonderful shape? You need to stay on phase 1 long enough for your body to respond in correcting at least 90% of what was not perfect. Give your body that chance to hold fast to the changes that it's now taken on, or you will yo-yo right back. If you don't stay in phase 1 for 90%, you're going to yo-yo back to where you were. Furthermore, I need you to stay in phase 2 and phase 3 for 3 weeks apiece. Stay in phase 2 and stay in phase 3 for 3 weeks. Every time. Why? Because the studies show that your pancreas and your liver are organs, but they're also glands. And one of the things that they have is memory. And in the case of your pancreas, if you've been in phase 1 for 6 months and all of a sudden you drop out of phase 1, you go to phase 2 for a week, phase 3 for a week, and then you go right back to a normal carbohydrate diet, your pancreas will see those levels of glucose hitting your bloodstream, and it will remember how much insulin it put out when it saw that same amount of glucose in the bloodstream, and go back to when it was hyperinsulinic. Even though it doesn't have to be, it will give too much insulin, and you'll yo-yo right back. The studies say 3 weeks, so do 3 weeks. I didn't make up that number. I didn't just say, well, it sounds, easy to remember. Let's put 3. That's what the studies said it should be. And the studies also say that as a general rule, most people, you are not most people, but America is most people, right? That if you stay in phase 1 for 12 to 13 weeks, it'll overcome all the symptoms of hyperinsulinemia, it'll normalize, and fatty liver disease. So why don't you take that advice? I just tell people, you're going to feel great, you're going to be healthy, you're going to save some money. Stay in phase 1 in your head for 12 weeks. Play that against your 90% of your achieving your goal. But that's a great rule to go by. Why? Because that's what the studies tell us to be in. So in your head, if you find out that you achieve your goal before the 12-week time, and then you can move to phase 2. But plan on 12 weeks. And if you end up sooner than that, that's great. Hopefully that answered some of those questions. How are we doing on time? Oh, all right. I'm going to move to the next part. I'm going to brag about you for a second. So I looked at, I mentioned that we had commissions coming up. I want to brag. Again, you guys broke a record. I'm paying out more commissions than we did last month, more than we've paid out in any month. Congratulations. I want to talk about this company. There's a company out there. Let me clear off my screen here. I want to make sure I got all my numbers just right. This company is being touted on the internet right now, kind of the hot thing. They started in 2012. They have gone public, which sometimes people get all impressed about. They're in like 13 countries. Wow. And they have about 30,000 distributors. A lot more than us. Of course, they've been around a lot longer. And actually, they have a really cool product. So their product is cool. It's a device. It's an electronic medical device. It's not a product that you consume, but it's very, very cool. But I want to talk about their averages. So look at some of these averages. Right now, they just put out their numbers, and the average distributor makes $410.60 a year. Average income is $410.60. Now, that is actually higher than most MLMs in the world. So that's not too bad. Okay. Let me compare that to, what the average income of those that are going to get a paycheck here in about 7 days? $400. That's a month. So the average annual income is 410. We're paying that out every month. Congratulations. That's awesome. What does that tell you? It tells you our pay plan is better. It tells you that you can achieve financial success faster and easier than one of the fastest growing and biggest companies that's out there. Let me give you another perspective. Of the same income, they break it down. I like the way they do their numbers here. They break down how many people are in a certain pay group. So the same amount of pay monthly, they have 0.837% of all their distributors making that. Now, for those of you that are not excellent at math, or you can't see that because I'm not showing it on my screen, 0.8% is less than 1%. It's 0.8 of 1%. That's not very much. So, of the people that are making the same amount of money that you're making, $400 a month, there are some that are making that much. It's just not their average is making that much. Is less than 1% of all their people. Whereas 21% of the people that are in 3Believe are making $400 a month. 21% compared to less than 1%. That's another way of explaining that you got a pretty good chance of being successful if you just apply some simple efforts. Okay, so that's pretty cool. I congratulate you on that. A good job. Congratulations. Let me talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to start doing something. Every month I'm going to write those that earn a check a letter. And it's going to be a letter that's going to talk about some statistics. It's going to talk about what you earned is meaning, putting maybe just a different spin on it. My goal is just to broaden your vision a little bit. So this one that's coming out, I just want to kind of talk about why we're doing what we're doing on the financial side. When I started this business, I had two goals. First was to provide a program and products that helped eliminate metabolic syndrome. Okay. Second is to offer a true business opportunity with rich rewards, and I've gone through some of what those are, to all those that are willing to work for it. They don't get it for free, but if they do, they really will succeed. Those are my two goals. I'm going to talk about the second part of that goal right now. Okay. Inside that goal, I have 3 levels of goals. The first one is my goal is to help you earn $300 a month. Even though the true cost of being on phase 1 isn't really $300 because it's a meal replacement program, and really the actual cost is closer to $40 a month because you're paying a certain amount of money for food now. The meal that we give you is $3.47 a meal. You're spending more than that per meal. Do the math, and you're saving money in most cases. But those of you that aren't, it's costing maybe $40. So I understand that some of you don't really realize how much you're spending in food or how much you're spending on everything that goes in your mouth. So to make it easy, I want you to earn an extra $300 a month as fast as possible. Now, as you know, it only takes 5 people on the phase 1 protocol, and I promise you, you know a lot more than 5 people that can benefit from what 3Believe has to offer. So 5 is not a difficult task. Okay? My second goal after you've achieved the 300 is for you to earn $600 a month. Why that specific amount? Now, you've heard me talk about that one of the multi-billion-dollar MLMs in the U.S. wanted to know that question. They wanted to know how much money would their distributors need to make monthly to ensure that they'd never leave their company. The study, which cost them a little over $1 million, came up with a little over $500 a month. Think of it this way. If we can come up with a business model that help you make $600 a month, that would also mean that everyone that you brought into the business wouldn't ever leave because they're also making $600 a month if they follow the plan that we recommend, if they just put to practice what we tell them. You see, I see us as partners. The more I help you build and secure your business, the more I secure the future of 3Believe. So really, it's a win-win-win. Why the third win? Well, one of the unique features of being 3Believe. First win is for you. You're winning both physically and financially. The person that brought you into the business or the person you brought into the business is winning. That's the second win. And the third is that both of you are getting physiological health out of it. That's a win-win-win. So my third level of goal is to have you earn $1,500 a month. I want you to go from $300 to $600 to $1,500. And again, you may ask, why in the world did I pick $1,500? The average mortgage in the United States is $1,494. Now that's as of January 17th. So those of you that have been in your home for longer than January of this year, you're likely to have a monthly payment less than that, unless you bought a home that's more than the average purchase price in America. Now, if you had a home-based business, an online business like ours, 3Believe, that paid for your home, they paid the cost of you getting your home, which is your single largest purchase, that'd be a pretty awesome business, wouldn't it? I mean, that's not a bad deal. Now, some might wonder, why don't I stop? Why don't I add more levels to the financial goals for you? Why don't I have a plan to make you a millionaire? And this is why. After we help you make $1,500 a month consistently, we'll move to the people in your downline to help them making $3,000, $6,000, and then $1,500 a month too. And I want you to consider this. If we helped your 5 people to also make $300 and their 5 people to make $300, and I stop there. I'm not even talking about $600 and $1,500, just $300. And we do that on 3 levels. So you and your 3, your second level and their 3, and your third level and their 3. Okay, so we're only going down 9 levels, right? Let's do this math. If I helped in that process of all just making $300, can you guess what that means for you? That means that you're making over $53,000 a year, which is a fair amount above $1,500 a month. Now let's assume that we treat your top 3 levels the same way and help them in their 3 making $300. The amount that you would make as it goes down in just your generational bonus. Okay? And hopefully you spend a little bit of time on the plan looking at that. That would change to $1.8 million a year for you. And that's in addition to the $53,000 that I talked about at first. So in any event, I don't have a goal for you to become a millionaire and retire. In fact, I never want you to retire. I want you to keep helping and exploring and learning every single day of your life. But I do want you to be financially secure. And I want you to be helping all those that you expose to the business to be financially secure too. Okay? And we actually are building the infrastructure to actually help each one of you do those very things. So in the meantime, I want you to do what you've been doing and tell the people that you've been talking to. And in fact, I want to ask you a question. And I want you to answer. How many people have you talked to this week, since we last talked, about the benefits of 3Believe? The benefits of improving their health, the benefits of making their pain be subsided or completely removed from their life, removing the risk of diabetes and obesity and blood pressure and heart disease. How many people have you just told that there's another option? And if it's not one, then I want to challenge you to make it at least one. Let me ask you another question. If I came to you and said, do you remember that movie with Dustin Hoffman and Morgan Freeman called Outbreak? I don't know, it was 15 years ago or so, maybe 20 years ago. It was a movie about this virus. This little monkey came from Africa and it spread, and it was just, it was terrible. It was killing people left and right. It was the worst spreading disease I'd ever seen. Consider it a pandemic. It was just flooding the world. And they were trying to find this little monkey because inside the monkey it had the antibodies to kill this virus. If you knew of a virus that would take over a person's health, render them defenseless to it, and all they had to do was do one simple thing, make a simple change in their life, who wouldn't you tell? When you saw that most of your neighbors, in fact 70% of your neighbors were having it, like obesity, or overweight, or having at least one of the symptoms. So it wasn't a rare disease, and you knew of the solution. Wouldn't you at least tell them about it? I challenge you that the symptoms that they have are not desirable and they don't like it. You found something that is a great blessing. Share it. I challenge you, just talk to one person. Talk to them to try the product. Go to the website and read about it. We'll go and watch one of the videos. Just tell them your experience and increase it from 0 to 1. It'll do two things. You'll feel better because you've helped someone else, but you've also helped move towards your financial independence. So let's change it from 0 to 1. And if you did 1, I encourage you to increase it by 1 more. If you talk to 10, then I'm asking you to talk to 11. All right? Keep going. So I am out of things to say. I don't have anything else to say. I can't think of a single thing. Merv, are you out there?
I am here.
Can you think of anything that I missed that I should cover?
No, you covered most of the things. That was good. Very good.
All right, now.
Very good.
I feel a little bad either because I'm talking about something boring, or it could be good that I'm answering everybody's questions. Every week I ask someone on the audience if they'd like to ask a question that I might be able to answer. Is there anyone out there that would like to ask a question?
Anybody have any questions? Now is your chance to ask. Anybody?
Okay. Well, I thank you for your time.
No questions.
No questions. I'm gonna go on the side that I answered everybody's questions. How about that one?
Yeah, good call. Very good call.
Have a great evening. God bless all of you. Don't forget to pray for those in Florida and Texas, and have a great remainder of the day. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
God bless you.
God bless you.
Goodbye.
God bless you.
Bye-bye.
And a good night. Good call. Good call.